I got to try to move this out away from the wall. Prior to this, I gave the interior here 2 coats of water-based polyurethane just to make it so that the dust won't stick. I also want to do the rest of the unit in clear polyurethane, so this will be easier to do now that there's no saw in the way or shelves or anything like that. All right, what's happening here is the back of mine sticks out an extra 2 inches because this saw that I'm using is huge and it takes up this much space to be able to use its full capacity. I designed this cabinet specifically to use the tilt function, the compound tilt function on the Hitachi saw that I've got, as well as the swivel part too. So I need this extra space at the back here. So I've got to attach these pieces that I cut out, and I drilled counter bores for the screws, and they'll just get screwed on, no glue. I've already pre-finished the faces of these with 2 coats of polyurethane. I did that while I was doing the rest of this here. Yeah, the 2-inch bump out actually works out well for me because my wall bumps out on the bottom. I talked about that in the first video. Okay, the next thing to do is to get the top on. That's one piece that goes from end to end. I've only got one thing left to do for the hood section, and that's to put the back on. This is just going to be 1/2-inch plywood though for that. I didn't use 3/4 there because it's kind of a bit of a waste. It does add racking strength to the unit. It keeps it from moving this way and that way, but that's about it. It really doesn't have to be 1/2-inch plywood. It could be 1/4-inch plywood actually. But I did do something special with it yesterday. I went out and I painted it like this. Okay, like the rest of it, this just gets screwed on. It's be a lot more stiffer now than it was before. With the addition of the top and the back, really consolidates it. So as neat as this is, it just wasn't there for me. I wanted to kick it up a notch, so I did this. I took a thin strip of off-cut plywood and I glued on the LED strip. I used construction adhesive to stick it on there. I took the tape that comes with it off and threw that away. I've heard so many people say that that's no good anyway. I'm not crazy about the color temperature of the light. This is supposed to be cool white, but looks a lot more like not very cool pink to me. Okay, I've only got 2 things left to do to make the cabinet functional, and that's to add the shelf for the saw itself and the side tables, the wings, that will support the stock on either side. I'm doing the shelf in 2 layers. I'm going to do the bottom one first. I've already put it in place, and I put the divider that I made for the middle here under this end, and then I cut another one that's scrap actually to go up on the other end to hold it level across. Now the height of this divider is important. What you want to wind up with here is when you put the other layer on here, that it be the height of your saw from here down to the top of the shelf. Has to match that. I've got both ends of this first layer of shelf screwed in, and I've positioned the divider here in the middle where it's supposed to go. I'm going to take my little square here and check. See the square looks pretty good. It doesn't really need to be because this opening here is just for access underneath to this shelf to clean it out. I anticipate that there will be a lot of dust fall in here, And I figured the easiest way is just to reach in with a whisk broom and sweep it out into a garbage bucket right there. My old one had a drawer that would slide out that the dust fell into, and that really wasn't that much more convenient actually than I anticipate that this will be. Because I wanted the drawer to fit in there really nice and tight, it was often difficult to get out. So that was a bit of a deterrent to cleaning it out. Okay, I just screwed that on, two 2-inch screws, nothing from the bottom because it really doesn't need it. I'm gonna put the other shelf on, again, no glue, just screws. I'm gonna put it in place. On top of the other one, make sure it's lined up, and then I'll drive screws down into the one below. And then just a couple more 2-inch ones from each end. And now with that shelf done, I can finally bring the saw back into the shop and set up, at least temporarily, until I get the wings made. Oh man, this is heavy. Oh. I don't think that there's a bigger compound miter saw anywhere on the planet Earth. What I've got to do now is I've got to spend a few minutes swinging this around, tilting it to find the ideal location for it here on the thing. I don't want to just say the center and then bolt it down type thing, or make my wings to fit, and then find that, you know, if I tilt it this way, that it won't go all the way in, or tilt it the other way and it won't go all the way in. Okay, well, as it turns out, it can be exactly centered in here. You actually need more room on this side than you do on this side, especially because this will not go full 45 down and full 45 this way. It'll only go to about 30 degrees tilt. So that leaves quite a bit on that side. I don't know why I didn't see that in the beginning. I could have made my hood maybe 4 inches smaller this way, but really not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and screw it down in the back. I still have to add a piece to the front here of solid wood to build it out to fully support the front of the saw, and to bolt it over in this location because the hole is actually off the shelf, while this one up here still is. These 2 screws are just temporary. I just want to get the saw so it doesn't move while I get the wings made. Put in position, and I can take the saw out again because I want to finish this shelf with clear polyurethane. Okay, I've got the pieces for the wings here. Got a mark on here, 35.5 inches. That's how long they're supposed to be. I have the hose that came with that vacuum connected to the vacuum and connected, just Mickey Mouse here with some masking tape, to try this out, to see how well this is going to work with it direct like that. If it works great, what I'll do is I'll go to like Home Depot and get a plumbing coupling here, a 2-inch mechanical junction they're called. It's a rubber coupling that'll go on there and fasten these two together, because the hose will not fit in there. I can't find anything that actually fits in there. Typical. Here it goes. We'll try it out. Not a lot of room here. Okay, it's the next day. I went out last night and I got the rubber coupling that fits nice and snugly on the saw, but it's a fairly loose fit on the nozzle. But the clamps should tighten it down, so we'll fix that up, no problem. Let's get that stuck on there. When I made the cut, very clean actually. There was a little bit of a cloud of dust to begin with, but that was mostly blowing it off of here. where it was piled up. When I took the saw out of the other cabinet, it was covered. So after the cut got going though, it all went right in the vacuum here, no problem. I think this is probably the best solution. It's rubbing on the back there a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that. Had a few comments, more than a few actually, on the automatic switch video about the vacuum, staying on for a few seconds after the cut. When I did it over there, I really didn't notice it was a problem. As you can hear, the vacuum still does run as it cycles down, or as the impeller spins down. So it's still doing a little bit of sucking after the saw runs. The other thing I was doing, if it was a particularly dusty cut, I was leaving the saw run after I finished the cut for, a split second, and that would actually clear out, the area. Something else I did this morning was I took down the LED strip thing and unplugged because it's all wired together. And I brought it in and I put a different color LED on there. I just cannot stand that pinkish color that's cast from those supposedly daylight or cool white LEDs that I bought a long time ago. Here I've got the two pieces that I just cut the length, and these are for the wings that support the material on either side. What I want to do with these, I want to add a piece of solid wood to each edge to make them wider, also to make the edge more durable. I've got a stop block system that clamps right onto these, and I want it to clamp onto solid wood rather than plywood. I've got a piece of construction grade lumber here that I'm going to cut to 48 inches long because I want it to, first of all, put on the edge of these, and I also want a piece to go along the nose here underneath the saw on that shelf. I'll set my saw to 90, and I get to try out the vacuum system again. I'll set my saw to 1 1/8. I'll tighten the fence. I'm going to cut strips off this that are 1 inch thick. That's what I'm shooting for. The wing needs pieces that are 1 inch wide, and that piece down there needs a piece that's 1 inch thick by 1 1/2 inch tall. Now this 2x8 has been sitting in my shop for months and it's really dry, and that's for what you need to do if you're going to use this type of lumber. Even though they say it's kiln dried from the home center, kiln drying only means that they've removed the bulk of the moisture from the wood down to around 11 or 12%. Now, if it's sitting in a store or in the home center for a month or two, a lot more of the moisture comes out. So it might be more dry, especially the bigger pieces. They tend to stay around a lot longer. 2x12 will probably be the most dry ones you'll find, especially ones that are 16 feet long. And that's a really good way to get low-cost solid wood lumber here in North America anyway. Another thing about leaving it to dry longer after you've bought it is that it releases more of that drying stress that I talked about in a recent video where I showed how to cut lumber straight without a joiner. Okay, I've got all the parts planed smooth. I planed these ones down to the same thickness as the plywood of the wings exactly. So when I put those on, all I'll need to do is give it a light sanding by hand, and that should bring it down nice and flush. I've got one other thing I need to do with two of these before I attach them to the wings, and that's to cut a very shallow rabbet here, and that's to receive this peel and stick measuring tape, and that will fit down inside that rabbet. I don't want it to stick up proud of the surface to get scratched up or interfere with the material that's being cut. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. Next time I'll get the wings put on, everything else done here. What I want to do in the meantime is actually get that work done, then give everything a coat of clear polyurethane so that it'll have time to dry before I move on to anything else. In the meantime, I got my new light strip put up here, and we'll have a look and see if it looks any better. Yeah, I think that is a lot better. Not pink anyway, which is very good.